Have you ever wondered why some relationships leave you feeling drained, confused, or even manipulated, despite starting with passion and charm? The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers in psychology, believed that much of this comes from the hidden layers of the human mind. His insights into women, men, and the unconscious reveal truths that are uncomfortable but necessary, especially for men who want to protect themselves from toxic patterns. Jung spoke about the shadow, the dark side of every human being that most people refuse to acknowledge. According to him, both men and women carry this hidden side. But in relationships, men often fail to see it in women because they are blinded by attraction, fantasy, or need. This blindness can lead to disappointment, betrayal, or even emotional destruction. In this video, we'll uncover Jung's shocking perspective on the darker aspects of some women. Not all women, but those whose unresolved shadows dominate their behavior. You'll learn how these hidden traits can impact men, why so many ignore the warning signs, and how awareness can protect you from harm. And if this message resonates with you, drop seductive wisdom in the comments so I know you stayed with me until the end. What you're about to hear is not meant to spread fear. It's meant to sharpen your vision, so you see people as they truly are, not as you wish them to be. Carl Jung, one of the pioneers of modern psychology, believed that every human being carries within them a hidden side of the personality he called the shadow. This is the collection of suppressed desires, impulses, and traits that we deny or refuse to acknowledge. For Jung, the shadow was not only about evil, but about the parts of ourselves we reject, our envy, jealousy, selfishness, and aggression. When it comes to women, Jung believed the shadow plays a significant role in shaping behavior and relationships. A woman may present charm, warmth, or even innocence on the surface, but underneath, her shadow could carry traits like manipulation, control, or deep insecurity. The danger lies not in having a shadow, we all do, but in being unaware of it. Unconscious shadows control people far more than the traits they openly admit to. Jung warned that the most destructive behaviors often come from this hidden side. For example, a woman might unconsciously sabotage relationships because of past trauma, or use emotional tactics to dominate her partner without even realizing it. Men, blinded by attraction or fantasy, often fail to see these darker traits until the damage has already been done. This is why Jung emphasized the importance of shadow work, the process of recognizing and integrating these hidden parts. Only by acknowledging the shadow can a person control it, rather than being controlled by it. When ignored, the shadow leaks into daily life through toxic patterns and destructive choices. For men, understanding this concept is critical. It means looking past surface charm and asking, what hidden motives might be driving her behavior? Not to be paranoid, but to be aware. Awareness doesn't make you fearful, it makes you wise. So here's the question for you. Have you ever experienced someone showing a very different side of themselves once the mask slipped? Share your story in the comments, because recognizing the shadow may help others avoid the same trap. Jung believed that within the psyche there are both masculine and feminine forces. He called the feminine side within men the anima, and the masculine side within women the animus. But when these forces are distorted or unchecked, they can take on darker forms. This is where the concept of the dark feminine comes in. Not a demonization of women as a whole, but a recognition that some women allow their shadow side to dominate their relationships. The dark feminine often shows itself through manipulation, seduction, and control. Instead of using her influence to nurture or support, she may use it to dominate, weaken, or consume. A man caught up in physical attraction may ignore the warning signs, jealousy, dishonesty, or a constant need for validation. because he's intoxicated by her charm. Jung warned that these are projections of the shadow, traits that appear attractive at first but eventually drain a man emotionally and spiritually. Consider a common example, a relationship that begins with intense passion, but soon shifts into chaos. The woman uses guilt, silent treatment, or emotional highs and lows to keep control. To Jung, this is not love, but the shadow expressing itself through unhealthy power dynamics. And men who fail to recognize this end up trapped in cycles of confusion and dependency. It's important to note that Jung never said all women operate this way. Just as men have destructive shadows, so do women. The danger lies in ignoring that this dark side exists, pretending that everyone is purely good or that attraction always leads to happiness is the very blindness Jung sought to expose. Modern psychology supports this insight. Toxic behaviors such as gaslighting, emotional blackmail, and narcissism are now widely studied, and they mirror what Jung described decades ago. Recognizing these traits doesn't make you cynical, it makes you prepared. So here's something to reflect on. Have you ever confused intensity with love, only to realize later that it was manipulation in disguise? Share your thoughts in the comments, because understanding the dark feminine might save you or someone else from repeating the same mistake. Carl Jung often warned about the danger of projection, the psychological process where we project our desires, fantasies, or ideals onto another person instead of seeing them as they truly are. This is one of the main reasons men ignore red flags in relationships. A man may meet a woman and, instead of observing her actual behavior, he sees only what he wants her to be. In doing so, he blinds himself to warning signs that are right in front of him. One common projection is idealization. A man might put a woman on a pedestal, imagining her as pure, loyal, and nurturing, even when her actions suggest otherwise. Small lies, jealousy, or disrespect are brushed aside because his fantasy of her perfection is stronger than reality. Jung called this dangerous because the bigger the projection, the harsher the disappointment when the truth comes out. Another reason men ignore red flags is fear of loss. Many men convince themselves that it's better to stay with someone toxic than to be alone. This fear keeps them rationalizing bad behavior. She only gets angry because she cares, or she lies sometimes, but nobody's perfect. Instead of seeing the shadow for what it is, they excuse it to avoid the pain of leaving. There's also the intoxicating effect of passion. Early stages of attraction can trigger brain chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, which cloud judgment. Psychology confirms that people in love often minimize flaws and exaggerate strengths. But Jung's perspective adds depth. When you fall in love with an illusion, you're not loving the person, you're loving your own projection. A simple example. A man notices his partner constantly belittles him, but instead of setting boundaries, he tells himself, "She's just joking." Over time, this erodes his confidence, but by then he's too invested to walk away. The red flags were clear, but he chose to see what he wanted instead of what was real. So here's a challenge. Are there red flags you've ignored in the past because you were blinded by fantasy, fear, or passion? Share your reflections in the comments, because awareness of this pattern might save you from repeating it in the future. Jung believed that projection doesn't just blind us. It also makes us vulnerable to manipulation. When a man projects his ideals onto a woman, he often gives her unearned power over him. She doesn't have to earn his trust or respect. His fantasy has already placed her on a pedestal. This imbalance allows manipulation to creep in, sometimes without either person even being fully aware of it. Manipulation often begins subtly. A woman may use guilt to control behavior, withholding affection when things don't go her way. She may play into the man's projection by appearing helpless or overly dependent, knowing he will rescue her because he sees her as pure or innocent. Jung would say this is the shadow at work, the hidden drives of both people shaping the relationship in destructive ways. The power of projection makes it especially dangerous. A man who has already convinced himself that she is the one will twist reality to protect that image. If she lies, he excuses it. If she disrespects him, he tells himself she didn't mean it. Instead of confronting manipulation, he deepens his denial. The more he invests in the illusion, the more trapped he becomes. Modern psychology echoes this warning. Terms like gaslighting and love bombing describe tactics where one partner destabilizes the other's sense of reality. But what gives these tactics their strength is not just the manipulator. It's the willingness of the other person to ignore evidence and cling to their projection. Jung's insight was that we are often complicit in our own manipulation because of what we refuse to see. A simple example, a man is constantly criticized and made to feel inadequate. But instead of setting boundaries, he tells himself, "She's only hard on me because she believes in me." In reality, the manipulation continues because he has projected a positive story onto harmful behavior. So here's something to reflect on. Are you seeing people as they truly are, or as your mind wants them to be? Share your answer in the comments, because learning to separate reality from projection might be the most powerful protection you have. Jung taught that the first step toward freedom is awareness. When a man becomes conscious of his own projections and the hidden shadow in others, he begins to see relationships more clearly. Instead of being swept away by illusions, he learns to pause, question, and observe. Awareness doesn't mean paranoia. It means having the courage to face reality without hiding behind fantasy. Awareness protects men by breaking cycles. Many repeat the same destructive patterns because they never reflect on their choices. They jump from one toxic relationship to another, always blaming the woman but never asking, "What in me is attracted to this dynamic? What red flags did I ignore?" Jung would say the unconscious will rule your life until you bring it into the light. Once you see the pattern, you can break it. This awareness also builds stronger boundaries. A man who understands the shadow knows how to recognize manipulation, emotional games, and toxic control. Instead of excusing them, he sets limits. Instead of being desperate for love or validation, he values his peace. This shift turns him from a victim of his relationships into a leader within them. Consider the opposite. A man unaware of these dynamics will keep falling into the same traps. He'll confuse intensity with love, projection with reality, and chaos with passion. Without awareness, he remains blind, repeating mistakes until they destroy his confidence and purpose. Modern psychology reinforces this wisdom. Studies show that people who reflect on their past relationships, learn from mistakes, and identify unhealthy patterns are far less likely to repeat them. Jung simply explained it at a deeper level. Awareness is not just about behavior. It's about understanding the unconscious forces that shape those behaviors. So here's the challenge. Will you keep walking blindly into destructive patterns, or will you sharpen your awareness and finally see people and yourself for who they truly are? Share your reflections in the comments, because this awareness might be the very shield that protects you from future harm. Carl Jung's insights into the shadow in human relationships may sound unsettling, but they carry a powerful truth. What you refuse to see will eventually control you. For men, this means understanding that not every relationship is built on love and honesty. Sometimes it is shaped by projection, manipulation, and hidden shadows. Awareness is not about fear, it is about freedom. The goal is not to distrust all women, but to recognize that some people, regardless of gender, allow their shadow to dominate their behavior. By learning to see beyond illusions, you protect yourself from destructive patterns and build relationships grounded in reality, respect, and truth. Jung's warning is not a curse, it is a tool to sharpen your vision. Now I want to hear from you. Which part of this message resonated with you the most? Jung's idea of the shadow, the danger of projection, or the importance of awareness? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you stayed until the end, write seductive wisdom so I know you're part of this journey. Because in the end, knowledge alone isn't power. Applied awareness is.